and welcome to Season 3 of Area 51.5, where we talk about all things science fiction, fantasy, horror, and pop culture. I am your host, Spooky Uncle John. With me are my Millennial Falcons.
Snyderman 501, Nick Snyder.
And...
Fire Lily, or Wren.
our Techno Mage. Guys, it's good to see you after we've had a little break. Nick, remind our aliens how they can get a hold of us.
As always, you can find us on Instagram, X, and TikTok at the Area 51H. You can find us on Facebook and YouTube by searching for Area 51.5. And make sure to check out our Patreon for all sorts of goodies and to make sure we can pay our Podbean subscription. Thank you.
That is important.
It is, yes. It helps us stay on Spotify.
We're going into Season 3. We do not want to not be able to podcast.
Exactly.
Speaking of podcasts, we're going to shine a spotlight on some fellow podcasters.
Yeah.
Fear Freaks Podcast with Braden, Timmons, and Destiny Faulkner. Join them as they review and discuss horror movies, give their commentary, and live watch parties.
You can subscribe to them on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, where you can check out their latest episode where they talk about their top 10 spooky fall movies.
Yeah, you know what? I've talked to Destiny a couple times.
Yeah.
I love her take on horror movies.
Yeah, she's really smart. She's really smart when it comes to that stuff.
Oh yeah, like she can give you a really interesting perspective on things that I have not thought of before, particularly Scream, because that's not my favorite franchise.
Yeah.
But after talking with her a little bit, it's like, I can see that point of view. I see where it's where it can be a fan favorite, because it's not personally mine. So really wonderful perspective. Can't wait to check them out. Hopefully they'll check us out as well. Nick, sadly,
yeah,
a lot of famous people passed away while we were on vacation.
Yeah, not great.
No, not great at all. I mean, let's start with Paul Rubens, Pee Wee Herman.
Yeah, that one kind of came as a shock. He wasn't really an old guy. I think he only hit 60.
No, but it wasn't known that he was sick either. It wasn't out there.
Very private with it.
Yeah, which is fine.
Yeah,
but I mean, who doesn't love Pee Wee's Playhouse and that early Tim Burton movie, Pee Wee's Big Adventure? Large Marge
scared the crap out of me. Oh my God!
And you see a little Jack Skellington in there somewhere too.
Yeah, I know. One of my favorite non-Pee Wee Herman movies, though, was Mystery Men, where he played, oh my God, the gaseous superhero.
The gaseous superhero.
Well, he farted.
The
spleen, yes.
I grew up on Mystery Men, which explains a lot.
It really does. Well, I mean, and that's the thing is, like, I saw the Pee Wee Herman movies when I was younger, but I never really connected to it.
Right.
But I connected more to Mystery Man, so that's what I really think of when I think of Paul Rubens.
Yeah, I think of him as Pee Wee Herman mostly, and Oswald Cobblepot's father.
Right, yes. that is
the Penguin's dad.
That was, yeah. There was also Bob Barker.
Yeah. Bob Barker, 99 years old, former host of The Price is Right.
One of my favorite memes was he made it to 99 without going over.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's funny. A little too soon, but funny.
No, actually, I think it was spot on, because if you waited for that, it was... And, I think he would have loved it.
Yeah, I think he would have, too.
I think he had a great sense of humor. He really did a lot of advocacy work for, controlling the pet population, having your pet spayed or neutered, which Drew Carey continues on with The Price is Right to this day.
Now, one of my favorite things, he actually guest hosted an episode of Monday Night Raw for WWE.
Oh, did he?
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
There was a weird era where they had like William Shatner and Hugh Jackman and a bunch of celebrities.
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I don't know Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, no, he did. He came down and he pounded the crud out of Triple H.
Oh my God! I never saw
in
that
the
one.
fakest choreography I've ever seen.
Yeah. Speaking of wrestling, though, we lost two big names in the wrestling world. Of course, Terry Funk, who was huge during the Territory days, and then reinvented himself as a hardcore legend during the Attitude Era.
Yeah.
And Bray Wyatt, who was on his way to essentially becoming WWE's next Undertaker. He died. He was 36.
Yeah.
Died of a heart attack. That's real sad.
Yeah, I when I think of Terry Funk, I certainly do think of the hardcore wrestling matches, like where anything goes, no holds barred. Use a trash can, use barbed wire, use whatever, right? Yep. Like just an amazing talent that way. This one hurts my heart.
Yeah.
This one hurts my heart because I'm a parrot head.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy Buffett just passed away. Everybody knows Margaritaville.
Wasted. Yeah, I here's the thing. Jimmy Buffett's music, I like the island feel of it.
Yeah.
I really dig that. But that being said, it's always been oldies to me. It's always stuff that's been that my parents listened to or that was on the oldies station. But I like that. I like Mungo Jerry, stuff like that. It's fun music.
Well, it's the vibe.
Yeah,
right? You hit it right on the head. It is that island vibe. You cannot go to a tropical island or even to Florida without thinking about Margaritaville, without thinking about Jimmy Buffett, having that as part of your soundtrack. It's like Beach Boys, Jimmy Buffett, Mungo Jerry, like you said, like just that to me is like the sound of summer. And so it's kind of sad that the sound of summer has died.
So I will just be very, very quick with this. One of my favorite moments with Jimmy Buffett is Jurassic World when the pterodactyls are attacking Main Street. He's in the crowd and he grabs a pair of margaritas and runs off with them. I love that.
And I know this one is near and dear to a lot of fans' hearts, especially fans of the Batman.
Yep.
Arlene Sorkin passed away.
Yeah, so that hurts because Harley Quinn was a constant in my life growing up,
right?
Because of the cartoons.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've talked about this before, where Harley Quinn actually was given birth to in that original animated series, Batman, right? Off the popularity of the Tim Burton movies,
yeah,
and so she invented Harley Quinn. She is Harley Quinn.
Well, and that's the thing with that character. That character was just supposed to be in that one episode that she debuts in. But everybody loved what she did with it, and they invited her back.
Yeah.
And the rest is comic book history.
Yeah.
Literally, because it went from the cartoon to the comics.
And she was on Days of Our Lives, and she hosted the spin-off show from America's Funniest Videos, which was America's Funniest People with Dave Goulet. So, yeah, I mean, all these people are going to be missed. 100%. What else can we say about that?
Not a whole lot.
It's sad. It's sad when it happens, and, it's just one of those things that we have to get used to, and, they make way for new talent coming up. They pioneer the ways for new talent. So, Speaking of pop culture, it is time for Nick's Pop Culture Roundup.
All right, so it's been a few weeks, and even though we've been off for the entire month of August, it's been a little dry, actually, as far as pop culture news goes. So let's start with this. After, 30 years, Charles Martinet, the voice of Mario, is retiring.
Well, can you blame him?
Yeah. No. He's been doing it for a long time. He is an older gentleman. I can understand retiring at this point. It is work. It is a lot of work because he's not... He does the cons. He does the work. He's constantly... I know he's constantly in the recording chamber doing the thing. So I can get it. I don't know who they're going to replace him with. I can't... The problem is the thing I have to wonder is if they replace him, is it going to be someone doing a mock-up of his voice, or are they going to let that new actor do his own thing?
Well, you know what? I think that is usually what happens, because if you think about how the voice casting goes, and we look, because we're going to actually be talking about this later on in the show with Warner Brothers, you look at the fact that Mel Blanc did all of the Looney Tunes voices, with the exceptions of the ones that June Foray did, like Granny and so forth, right? So it took, I don't know how many actors to replace Mel Blanc, and all the people are doing is an imitation of Mel Blanc doing those characters. So anybody that comes down to those voices, it's becoming an imitation of Mel Blanc.
And even if you look at, we just talked about Arlene Sorkin, she passed that role on to Tara Strong, and Tara Strong does a pitch perfect rendition of Arlene Sorkin's Harley Quinn. So, yeah, that is probably what will happen, but be interesting. a very recent wrestling thing that just happened on Saturday, CM Punk was fired from AEW. And that comes as a bit of a shock. I'm going to try and leave my personal opinions out of this, but basically there was an issue with Jack Perry, who is Luke Perry's kid, who's on the AEW roster. He did a spot where he wanted to use real glass, and on live television, CM Punk told him not to do it. On live television, called him out about this very private thing that happened backstage, and CM Punk confronted him on it, and it got physical, and Tony Khan, the CEO of AEW, fired CM Punk as a result. It's a mess.
So this is legit.
This is legit.
It's so hard with wrestling, right? Because like they do these things where you go, and if they do it well, you actually think, oh my gosh, like this person has happened. So it's not part of a bigger storyline.
The thing is the real stuff the actual real stuff that happens backstage, sometimes, a lot of the times, is a lot more tantalizing than the stuff that happens on screen.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not the first problem that's involved Punk. There was a whole thing last summer with Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks where Punk got suspended. The fact of the matter is, and I will be very honest about this, it is clear that Tony Khan does not have control over his locker room, and it's causing problems because this has been an ongoing issue. But that's a whole other thing. TikTok star. This is a little bit of a weird one for me. TikTok star and social media sensation Kabe Lame has been added as a playable, a playable skin on Fortnite. Now, if you don't know who Kabe Lame is, he has millions of followers in social media, and he got his level of fame for mocking other videos, and he just blew up from there. And it's just kind of a weird thing to see. Social media stars, content creators, I remember Bella Porch. She was able to maneuver into a recording career from her social media career. And seeing these other social media stars, like it was, I think it was Jeffree Star. He started off doing social media content creation and maneuvered into his own line of makeup. Like a whole bunch of, it's just kind of interesting to see how these social media stars, these content creators, are maneuvering their way into other media. Right. The same way, stars back in the 90s would. It's just really kind of neat and very interesting. And finally, Taylor Swift. Oh boy, the Swifties are ravenous. So there's a Taylor Swift concert movie coming out, and it has broken AMC Theaters' record, which was previously held by Spider-Man No Way Home for the most pre-sales sold.
Wow. Tay-Tay fans are serious. They're hardcore.
Now, that's an interesting thing. Considering I am going to just mention this aspect of it because it does involve the strike that's going on. But if Taylor Swift's concert movie does well, like it seems to be projected to, the Hollywood studios have something that they can start putting in theater. Concerts.
Right.
Because concerts
It's not new, though. But that's not new.
It's not new. But concerts, I honestly think that the reason this concert movie is doing well is because of how expensive and hard to get those concert tickets are.
Yeah. I think that's got to be part of it.
It has to be.
But, I mean, theaters have done opera. They've done Broadway shows. I've seen that where they put those into theaters. Yeah. I don't know how well they did because for some reason it doesn't do it around here. But
they used to do it around here, but I'm not thinking too many people in our general area is big into the opera.
Well, I know that what it is. It's that Cineplex here in Canada has ownership of that, so they pick and choose which ones is going into. So when I say it doesn't happen around here, we would have to travel somewhere to go and do that. Like our Cineplex here in town is not going to promote something like that. They're not going to put in something like that. I had to drive over to London to watch The Last Voyage of the Demeter because it was not coming here, even though it was advertised as coming here.
Yeah, and I got a little insight into how booking works for theaters, and basically they look at trends within a specific theater is how they make that determination.
Yeah. But, it's like if you continue doing that, you're never going to see if there's an opportunity for other trends, other things coming along. And, in a summer that was dominated by Barbie, you're not going to find that. That's not going to be an accurate view because that was so amazingly blown up.
Yeah. I was reading an article earlier. Barbie saved the summer theater business. And it's like, yeah, because everything else is pretty much not done well.
Well, Oppenheimer did well.
Yeah.
But it was part of the whole Barbieheimer internet craze.
Yeah, but like if you look at the other big tent poles like Blue Beetle, Ninja Turtles, all that kind of stuff, even I think Mag 2 did okay, but I don't think it did the huge money that they thought it would do. The Mag 2 did much better overseas than it did here. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not been a great summer for movies.
Speaking of overseas, this blew me away.
Mm-hmm.
So, Simu Liu is singing. He has made this song. He has a fantastic voice.
Really?
I'm not kidding. It's fantastic. And it's a beautiful song. I don't know the name of it, but it's fantastic. But as they were talking about it on the social,
mm-hmm.
Lainey, who is Chinese Canadian, said that in North America, we have a tendency to pigeonhole people into one particular thing, right?
Yeah.
We're used to seeing maybe singers like Lady Gaga come into acting, but we're not used to it sort of the other way around, Interestingly enough, you can find this on YouTube. Jackie Chan has over 20 albums in China where he sings in Cantonese, and he has sung things like A Whole New World, I'll Make a Man Out of You.
That's because he was the voice in Mulan.
Yeah,
in the Chinese
but
film.
There's all kinds of other songs that he has done, and you really need to check it out because it's quite amusing.
It's so good.
So I just want to talk about Disney movies for a second here because you brought up the songs. Wren and I were having a discussion. So there, Taron Egerton and Ariana Grande have been, those names have been bandied about for the live action remake of Hercules. And Ariana Grande, of course, is being talked about for Meg.
Yeah, of course.
And she looks the part. But here's the thing, though.
She can sing the song.
She can sing the song. The thing is I was listening to my driving playlist on Spotify, and I forgot she actually sang Zero to Hero for a Disney album. I'm like, oh, that's cool. So there's her audition right there. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that live action film because that is my favorite Disney movie. So,
well, I'm not looking forward to too many live action films from Disney, to be honest with you. I just think that they have no ideas and they're just running with this. And
I'm trying to be optimistic about it.
I
have to be. It's my favorite Disney film. So
yeah. Well, you know what? Speaking of Disney and speaking of films, that brings us to our main topic. We're going to talk about 100 years of not Disney, but of Warner Brothers. And the reason I bring Disney into it is because I did a little research for this, Millennial Falcons, and it's interesting in the fact that they have this worldwide sort of market share.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's astounding. The things that Warner Brothers owns or has investment in or stakes in is mountainous. But they actually have a higher percentage of that market than Disney does by a slight margin. Disney has, and I'm rounding it, 18%. Warner Brothers has 20%.
See, and that blows my mind because somebody made a diagram of all the different things that Disney owns. And the fact that Warner Brothers has more.
Oh, I didn't necessarily say more per se.
I would say probably more value.
Yeah.
That just blows my mind. So, who exactly are the Warner Brothers?
I know. Yakko, Wacko, and their sister Dot.
Hello, nurse.
No. All right. So, it started with Harry, Albert, and Sam Warner back in the early 1900s.
I like Yakko, Wacko, and Dot better.
Yeah, it does sound better. Anyway. Anyway, they purchased a projector and they toured around Ohio and Pennsylvania to all the different mining towns showing short films on mining. Now, I just want to stop there for a second because I thought about this while I was reading this today. We talk about representation, but imagine being these miners where they're seeing this type of thing for the first time.
Right.
And they see themselves represented on a screen, a moving picture. Like that must have been insane at the time.
Well, especially because, 100 years ago, film wasn't...
No.
We take it as very commonplace.
Yeah.
It was a new invention.
Right?
And we're talking the silent era.
Mm-hmm. So absolutely mind-blowing stuff. And to preface this, these men, this company, were always on the precipice of innovation. They were the leading innovators in the business.
Yeah, and I think it's almost impossible for anybody to sit there and say they have never seen a Warner Brothers movie.
Honestly, yeah, I agree with you there. Now, in 1903, they set up their own stationary Nickelodeon in Pennsylvania, and they brought their fourth brother, Jack, more on him later, into the fold. And Jack was a younger brother, and he would entertain people during intermission by singing to them. That was the thing, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's true, because the silent films had piano players. You'd go to the movies, they'd show you the motion picture, it would freak you out seeing this train coming at you, the piano player's down there furiously playing the piano, and then would be entertainment probably at intermission or pre-show or whatever.
And from what I understand about it, the music was very vaudevillain in style.
Vaudevillian, yeah.
Vaudevillian. Sorry.
A vaudevillain is someone who is probably like Snidely Whiplash.
The Vaudevillains were a wrestling tag team. Okay. Now,
ADHD is a wonderful thing. Nick, keep us on track.
In 1918, the brothers open up their studio on Sunset Boulevard, and they released My 4 Years in Germany, their first nationally syndicated title. And that is what started making them money. That was the first big release for them. Mm-hmm. They're still an underneath studio at this point. They're not big. They're still on what's called Poverty Row on Sunset Boulevard.
Right, probably making like shorts and B movies.
Yeah. Now in the 1920s, it was Rin Tin Tin that helped put WB on the map, right? Rin Tin Tin's first film, Where the North Begins, did so well, the pupper was dubbed the Mortgage Lifter by Jack Warner. He made them so much money, it just paid off their mortgages. Absolutely. And I don't just mean on their houses, I mean on the studio.
Right.
Absolutely brilliant. The dog was signed to even more films for $1,000 a week, which was a lot of money in the 1920s. In today's money, that's $15,000 a week or $780,000 a year. That was one well-paid pupper.
Yeah. Or basically the cost of owning a dog.
That's one expensive dog.
Listen, man, prices these days, I'm telling you, I don't know how anybody has a pet.
Well, okay, fair enough. I understand that. All right. So, despite Rin Tin Tin making them oodles and oodles and oodles of money, Warner Brothers still had trouble finding its way out of Poverty Row. Their biggest star was a dog, but when they cast John Barrymore as the lead for Beau Brummel, that skyrocketed them to the level of like First National, MGM, and Paramount, the big studios of the day, almost overnight.
Yeah.
So they got John Barrymore, who was fresh off Broadway. They got him in Beau Brummel, and everybody ate that up. Everybody loved that stuff. They were the first to add synchronized sound to a film. So they were the first to actually do a talkie.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what I meant about right at the precipice of innovation.
Right. And everyone would have flocked to that.
Well, so Harry Warner was actually against it. He famously said, "Who the heck wants to hear an actor talk?"
Well, but don't forget though, back then you could disguise their voices.
Well, yeah. Wasn't it Fatty Arbuckle who had like a really high-pitched voice or something?
I'm not sure.
No?
I did not know Fatty Arbuckle. I'm not that old.
I don't know. I thought you might have heard stories, but anyway. So in 1926, Warner Brothers produced Don Juan, once again with John Barrymore, the first feature film with synchronized Vitaphone sound effects and a soundtrack.
You know, it's interesting because that's exactly what Singing in the Rain is about. You know, it's not, I mean, the big famous thing, of course, is the dance number.
Yeah,
right?
Of course. Everyone knows the dance
and
number.
the song, Singing in the Rain. Everybody knows that. But the plot of it is that the silent era is leaving and the talkies are coming in, and they have this actress who has a really bad voice. And Debbie Reynolds has a nice voice, and so they want Debbie Reynolds to be the voice of this actress. And everybody eats it up and thinks, oh, what a lovely voice she has. And then, you know, because they want Debbie Reynolds to have her character to have the fame, they want her to have the recognition. They pull this really great stunt to prove that it was actually Debbie Reynolds who was the voice of the actress in the silent film.
Cool.
You just thought it was about
I'm going to be
tap
honest
dance
with you.
and Singing in the Rain, right?
I'm going to be honest with you. I have actually not seen Singing in the Rain.
That doesn't surprise me, but dude.
That was one of the best dance numbers to make him laugh.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he just, like, sends himself sailing through the wall. How have you not seen that?
Give it a watch. We're off topic.
We're going to watch it.
Okay. So, yeah, they were the first to do a talkie.
While we let Nick regroup, I just want our listeners to understand, aliens, Nick is an uncultured swine.
Oink, oink, baby. All right. The success of Don Juan led to The Jazz Singer. This cemented Warner Brothers' place in the pantheon of Hollywood. They secured new land out of Poverty Row and built the now famous Warner Brothers studio. So, like, the water tower and everything.
Right, where they locked in Yakko, Wacko, and Dot.
You should have locked Jack. This success led to further innovation with On With the Show, the first all-talking, all-color feature. So, again, at the precipice of innovation.
Right.
They were huge for that. During the 30s, they also released the first Looney Tunes cartoon, sinking in the bathtub with a character called Bosco. And in 1936, Porky Pig was introduced with the rest of the classic Looney Tunes roster following suit shortly thereafter. And the rest is history on that.
Yeah, especially when you get Porky Pig's famous thing, meanie, that's all, folks.
Yeah, and that's the thing. He kind of became a pseudo mascot for them in that sense for their cartoons.
Even though Bugs Bunny became the upper echelon, he eventually became the mascot.
Yeah, but it was Porky Pig who rode the shield at the end, saying that's all, folks.
Yeah.
So that kind of became synonymous with them. Now, one of the things I did look into a little bit, Jack Warner was a real life Saturday morning cartoon villain.
Yeah,
he was.
You were telling me about this earlier, where it's almost like I said to you, I don't know if I think he's a brilliant businessman or if he's basically Snidely Whiplash going, let's tie her to the tracks and let the train run over her.
The only answer I have for that is yes. I mean, honestly, I think the man would sell his own mother's dentures for money, but like,
and probably did.
So he took over as president, I believe during the 1920s, and he ruled with an iron fist. He would randomly fire people for no cause just to scare the crap out of other workers.
So let me get this straight. So basically someone is coming along, let's say it's a street sweeper, doing their job, picking up the litter, puts it in the trash can. Jack Warner decides that he doesn't like that trash can they put in. He would have preferred him to put in the other one and says, that's it, you're fired.
Yeah, essentially. I think you're putting far too much more thought into it than that, but yeah, essentially.
So he just walk around the Warner Brothers lot. Fired. No, she's kind of cute. Keep her. Fired.
He fired his own son just to embarrass him. just to knock him down a few pegs.
Oh my gosh!
Oh,
he's Vince McMahon,
kind of
like the character of the evil boss.
Kind of.
There's no kind of. I'm seeing the direct similarities there.
I mean, Vince McMahon did fire his own son, so both on screen and in real
Jack
life.
Warner, you don't understand.
So yeah, Jack Warner had this reputation for being a complete monster in the business. Shrewd, sure, but a monster? Well, okay. So it comes to the point where the brothers want to sell the studio.
All right, this ought to be good.
Jack Warner agrees. Let's sell the studio, sure. He puts together a group of buyers and pays into it the most amount. That group of buyers buys the studio, and then he buys his stock back, and now he has the controlling interest in Warner Brothers, plants himself in as a CEO, cuts his brothers out completely, and there it is. Like I said, the dude would sell his own mother's dentures for money.
So the other Warner Bros are like going, okay, yeah, we're gonna make money. We'll sell the studio. This is it. We're gonna cut out. Great, I agree.
Now,
and they just sat there and went, wait, what?
Now, at this point, there's only 3 Warner Brothers because Sam sadly passed away just as Jazz Singer was releasing.
Okay.
So none of them were there for the opening night for that, which was...
So Jack was the youngest one, right?
Yes, I believe so, yeah.
Why do I sit there and have this feeling that they were sitting around the table for Sunday night dinner at one point and he went, who's the moron now?
I have a feeling he just tried to get back at them for making them sing during intermission.
I think so, right? Wouldn't you? Why not? Why not?
Oh, and here we are. Here's this complete monster of a businessman, and we're just trivializing him at this point. Anyway,
we don't know that he was a monster. This is just business, right?
Yeah, but it's his reputation, and you leave that reputation behind. That's his legacy.
Do you think he cares?
No, he died a rich man. He don't give a crap.
I wouldn't care. I was like, yeah, well, I have all this money, and Warner Brothers is one of the biggest studios going, so.
Yeah. And one of the other things, though, just to bring it back on track a little bit, they hired, so back in the day, movie studios would contract actors to these ridiculous contracts.
Right.
Just stupid, decades-long contracts.
Well, yeah, they basically...
where they owned them.
Yeah, basically an actor back in the day was chattel.
Yeah, exactly.
They were part of the studio. They owned it. I mean, this is what happened to poor Judy Garland. It's like, oh, she's tired. Give her an upper. Oh, she's not sleeping well. Give her a downer, And so they got her addicted, and yeah, it's terrible.
Well,
they owned her.
Yeah, and when MGM were done with her, for lack of a better, like they were done with her. Warner Brothers swept in and they took her up and they put her in the musical version of A Star Is Born,
right? Which
there was some studio mess around on that, but still, whatever.
The movie that has been remade for time and all eternity, A Star Is Born.
Yeah, that was the second remake, I believe. Anyway.
There's about 5 or 6 remakes of A Star Is Born.
Same thing with Debbie Reynolds. When she hit 40, MGM were like, "You're out," and Warner Brothers was like, "But she's still a star.
Yeah,
snatch her up." And a lot they worked a lot with these silver screen actresses. Betty Davis was so figured in to Warner Brothers that they considered her the Warner sister.
Right.
Which is funny because if you listen to Dot and Animaniacs, she's actually the voice is actually a send up of Betty Davis. So yeah, the studio has a long history, and it's an amazing history because I didn't realize how innovative they were.
But they also have a long history of really fantastic pop culture relevant movies. Let me just give you a few of them. So you have The Exorcist. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows what The Exorcist is. You have Casablanca. You've got The Dark Knight. All the DC,
Batman,
all the DCs, right? Superman, all the DCs. The Lego Movie, The Matrix, Ocean's 11, Blade Runner. Goodfellas, Godzilla, The Goonies, Clash of the Titans remakes, The Fugitive. I mean, it goes on and on and on.
Did you mention Gremlins?
Yeah, Gremlins.
Yeah.
Goes on and on and on. It's just all the way back to whenever.
Yeah.
And that's what I said earlier. You cannot tell me that a person, anybody on this planet, has not seen at least one Warner Brothers product.
Unless you are actively going out of your way to not watch television or film, there's no way. We
haven't even scratched the surface of their television presence.
No.
My goodness, like they have their own. Is this network still running the WB?
No, WB became CW, which is a mix.
Right.
Basically, UPN and WB went together, and yeah. Okay.
But let's talk about the animation.
Yes,
because this is where Disney and Warner Brothers really have that rivalry, right? Mm-hmm. Because Universal had Woody Woodpecker. They did cartoons too, but they're not synonymous with it.
No.
Paramount did cartoons. They're not synonymous with it.
Mm-hmm.
Disney and Warner Brothers are synonymous with animation.
I'm going to be honest with you. Like, other than Woody Woodpecker, I couldn't tell you who's Universal, and I definitely can't tell you who's Paramount.
Right.
Like, yeah. Animation for Warner Brothers, I mean, their characters, not just Bugs Bunny, but all of them went on to be huge pop culture icons.
Yeah.
Especially in the 90s. You couldn't walk through a Zellers or any kid's clothing store without seeing Bugs Bunny in that basketball getup.
Right, from Space Jam.
No, it was actually before Space Jam.
Oh, okay.
It's actually really neat. The merchandise that they started releasing in the 90s inspired Space Jam.
Oh, okay.
They actually did an advertisement with Michael Jordan and the Looney Tunes.
Right. I remember that.
So, yeah, that all spanned from merchandise.
And it fits so well, too, because if you look at the plot of that original Space Jam, it fits so well because Michael Jordan had retired and these aliens want to capture all these big basketball stars in some of the funniest ways possible. But Michael Jordan is retired, so the Looney Tunes go, "We need your help!"
It was so wild seeing that movie because, like, the first thing that comes to mind when I looked at that movie is, okay, this looks like a retread of... This looks like it's going to be the same as Roger Rabbit.
Right.
And it very much was not.
No. And
it was its own unique thing, and it did so well at the box office.
And this second Space Jam with LeBron James didn't seem to have that same je ne sais quoi.
I haven't watched, and there's reasons I haven't watched it. One, I frankly don't care. Two, it's been done. Three, the idea was there well over a decade ago to do this sequel, because LeBron James has been a basketball player since he was just out of high school. They wanted to do that movie, and they never did it, and they never did it. They wanted to do it, they never did it. It just kept going on. The rumors that they were going to make it. And unfortunately, sometimes when you wait that long to do it, the product doesn't live up to the hype. So when they finally came out with this after waiting for 10, 12 years for this film, I just sat there and went, I don't care.
Yeah, and it speaks to the richness of these characters because we all like to imitate them. They all have their own catchphrases. Yeah. Even Taz, has his catchphrase, even if it's the everyone knows what that is. You expect the Tasmanian to do it. But, you think about how smart those cartoons were, right? Because they brought in actual actors that they would sort of feature, even if the people weren't doing their voices, like Bing Crosby and so forth and so on. They appear in these cartoons, but it's amazing that Mel Blanc did all those voices. We talked about that earlier. And, like Marvin the Martian is just absolutely one of my favorites. I love I don't know if it's the first cartoon he was in, but I just love when he says this. The Illudium Q-36 explosive space modulator. That creature has stolen the space modulator. I just love his voice. I love it. anytime I get a chance to do it, like I just did, I will.
No, I know. Oh, you know what we need to do? We need to go through the drive-through at McDonald's and you do that. But anyway.
Either that or Krusty.
Oh, no, not again. Never again. Okay. It was Mel Blanc that did all the voices, with the exception of June Foray, right?
Right, June Foray did the female voices, like Granny and Witch Hazel.
And I believe she did the Roadrunner. They made a joke about it in The Simpsons where they're like, I didn't actually say Meep Meep, it was just Meep, and then they circled it. They circled it in the track anyway. Yeah. So when you look at how talented, like there are voice actors out there that can do thousands and thousands of. Frank Welker comes to mind, of course. Yeah. There are actors out there that can do multiple different things. Like as a Transformers fan, one of my favorite little tidbits of trivia is that all of the Mogwai in Gremlins were voiced by, with the exception of Gizmo,
right,
were voiced by Peter Cullen, who plays Optimus Prime.
Oh, that's interesting.
And the Gremlins were all voiced by Frank Welker, who plays Megatron.
And it's interesting too, because you're mentioning Gremlins, so you look at that original movie, and Chuck Jones, the chief animator at Warner Brothers of the Looney Tunes at the time, is in the movie. He's got a little cameo there.
Yeah, he does, doesn't he?
He does a drawing of Mrs. Deagle, and it's like, hey, Mr. Jones, that's a nice drawing you've got there. I killed myself laughing at that, being on the in-joke, because I'm like, I know that's Chuck Jones.
Yeah.
As a American growing up in the 90s, we had two options on Saturday morning, WB Kids or Nickelodeon. And it kind of was a fight sometimes between my brother and I on which one we watched. But half the time they'd have like Pinky and the Brain.
I love Pinky and the Brain.
Yeah. And like my parents could watch that and get all those jokes. And then we'd also be like, ha ha ha, funny mice. But then we had like the Shaolin Showdown and Mucha Lucha. And later on, it was at night, but they had Teen Titans. And Teen Titans also was on Cartoon Network, but they had Teen Titans, and my brother and I ate that up so much. That was like, we kind of watched like the Justice League and stuff, but Teen Titans was our superhero show. That is what we loved.
Yeah.
So in the early 90s, when I was a kid, a lot of the cartoons were these kind of weird spin-off versions of Looney Tunes. Like you had Tasmania, to an extent, although not really a spin-off, but Animaniacs, which had Pinky and the Brain. And you had Tiny Toons. And one of the things I really appreciate about those cartoons from the early 90s was the fact that they would slip jokes in there that were definitely made
like
for the parent.
The Prince joke?
Yeah. Oh, my favorite was from Tiny Toons. The Daddy Gator's trying to marry off his two daughters to Buster Bunny, and Buster Bunny says, "Sir, that's bigamy." And the Daddy Gator goes, "No, son, that's bigamy." And as a kid, I had no idea what that meant. As an adult, I'm like, that is smart.
I think Steven Spielberg, because he was behind it, did a really good job of recreating the feel that the original Looney Tunes had.
Yes.
With, these new characters, like Slappy the Squirrel.
I love Slappy the Squirrel was such an amazing character, because she was this kind of haggard leftover from old Hollywood.
Yeah.
One of my favorite lines from her was, "What are scripts for?" And then her nephew says, "For lining the bottom of bird cages." And I'm just like, oh my God.
Another thing that definitely helped Warner Brothers was they were the main place to watch Pokemon.
Yes.
And in the 90s.
Yes, that's true.
It was for kids, whatever, but they had Pokemon. That's where you watched it. And
interestingly enough, Pokemon actually helped save their animation studios because with the Pokemon movies. But that's a whole other topic.
Yeah, that's
I'm kind of envious of you guys being able to grow up on that stuff, because by the time that came out, I was already grown. So I grew up on the old Looney Tunes, right? And like there's anybody from my generation, you just absolutely know you're thinking about Sylvester the cat and the kangaroo and his son, right?
Yeah.
And he just just that line of his gets used over and over and over again. It's like where he says, "My father, thrown out by a mouth. I'll never be able to show my face in public again. Oh, the shame of it all." And he puts the paper back.
Oh, my God. Just some of the old Looney Tunes cartoons are so... The Barber of Seville short.
Mm-hmm.
That is...
What's Opera Doc?
Yeah, that one is so amazing. And just... They when I think of Elmer Fudd, I don't think of him in the hunter outfit. I think of him in that little gladiator outfit from Barber of Seville.
The Viking outfit.
And even Yosemite Sam. Oh, what in tarnation!
I can't because you brought that up, and I'm killing myself now because of his accent. It's like, kill the wabbit, kill the wabbit.
Oh my God!
And Bugs Bunny, what do you want with the wabbit? Oh my God! So anyway, that's Warner Brothers past. They were really smart. Whoever's in charge now was really, really smart because they have the Lord of the Rings trilogy and the Hobbit trilogy. They have the whole Harry Potter thing and the DCU. Good or bad, whether the movies do well or not, doesn't matter. It goes all the way back to Christopher Reeve as Superman, Michael Keaton as Batman, and so forth and so on.
And Val Kilmer as Batman, and George Clooney as Batman. And Christian Bale as Batman.
I gotta be so negative all the time.
Hey. Apparently, if you go up to George Clooney in the street and say you didn't like Batman Returns, he'll pull a $10 bill out of his wallet and refund you. For your ticket.
I honestly couldn't say that with a straight face because the thing of it is, those Joel Schumacher ones were bad, but I still watched them. I can't say I didn't enjoy them for what they were, especially when you sit there and Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze and Uma Thurman as Poison Ivy. It's so campy and so out there. It's kind of delicious.
This has always been my take on Joel Schumacher films. His take on Batman, the movies that he made, was an updated film version of the Adam West Batman.
Absolutely, it was, and I'm pretty sure that inspired him.
Yeah,
and that's kind of the thing though, because Warner Brothers also, even though some of the properties haven't been great, but if you look at the fact that the Batman, which came out and we reviewed that, was spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
Joker was spectacular. Coming up, that's what I wanted to mention. I saw a new trailer for Fall Due. Lady Gaga's going to do really well in that. She might even get an Oscar nom.
For the listeners who aren't aware, Fall Due is the sequel to The Joker.
It looks like it's going to be just as good. I'm not kidding. It's such a great trailer because they're having this whole conversation and Joker has killed like 6 or 7 of his previous psychiatrists, so it's it's going to be good. I guarantee it's going to be good. But that's what I mean. It's like, for the most part, we've discussed this in other seasons, how the writing for the animated DC characters seems to be better than the writing for the live action. DC animation, Warner Brothers animation with the DC characters. These are spectacular movies, spectacular animated movies.
I completely agree with that. When you look at like Under the Red Hood, even The Killing Joke, which is not my favorite, it's still a very well done little film. And having Mark Hamill and Kevin Conroy voice that one, chef's kiss to that.
It's amazing how they can go really dark or they can go really funny.
Yeah.
And like we mentioned Harley Quinn.
Mm-hmm.
That's hilarious. Not for children, but it's hilarious.
Yeah, the Harley Quinn television show, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like as much as I loved Sylvester Stallone's King Shark in the Suicide Squad movie, I really, really adore King Shark from the cartoon. He's so funny.
Yeah. It's hard to believe, actually, that we're sitting here looking at a movie studio that is a century old, that has brought us so many properties, so many iconic films.
Mm-hmm.
And they're continuing to go. I mean, they dominated the summer with Barbie. It broke all the records. Huge, huge success. So right now, Warner Brothers, 100 years later, is still sitting right there at the top.
Yep. And it's interesting because up until recently, the bread and butter for these studios has been superhero films.
Right.
But now Barbie has happened, and right now there's no plans for a sequel.
Right.
But it'll be interesting to see where things go. Now, will they take the right lesson away from Barbie and make the right films, or are they just going to go, well, toy films are popular, let's do that?
Well, we can only surmise.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get into that kind of conjecture. I'm just going to sit there and go, what a ride it's been. 100 years of Warner Brothers. Here's to 100 more.
I won't be here for that.
I won't either, but
I will be.
I said last night, we all went to a toga party last night.
Toga.
And it was also partly to celebrate my birthday. There was a nice little cake there because my birthday is coming up. And I'm really old. But I quipped that I was not going to die. I quipped that I was just going to float around in the space that the Earth used to occupy. And somebody said, well, how do you plan on doing that? I said, it's easy. You just don't die.
So far, you're doing a really good
job.
job.
So far,
you're
crossed.
succeeding. So far, you're succeeding.
Yeah, I haven't died yet. Hopefully, I have not hexed anything. So, aliens, as we wrap things up, we just want to give you a little hint of some of the things that we're going to be talking about this season. Wren, you have that list.
We are going to be talking about cryptids, vampires, puppets, Star Trek, iconic vehicles, maybe some Buffy, maybe some Mel Brooks, and finally, we're going to do an episode on iconic aliens.
It's about damn time, too. We're only called Area 51 and a half. We talk about all things science fiction, fantasy, horror, and pop culture, and we're going to lean in on a few of those subjects a little bit heavier this season.
I am so excited.
Nick, remind our aliens how they can get a hold of us.
Oh, as always, you can find us on Instagram, X, and TikTok at the Area 51H. You can find us on Facebook and YouTube by searching for Area 51 and a half. Please give us money on Patreon. And of course, make sure to subscribe and like us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you find your listening ear candy.
And don't forget to spay and neuter your pets.
Thank you, Bob Barker.
That is all the time we have for this episode of Area 51 and a half. Aliens, thank you for joining us on our landing pad, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Meaning, that's all, folks.